Oh, the humanity. When it rains, Max Verstappen rumour, it pours. This is getting techie and techie things. And of course, why? Because Maximilian Verstappen is, of course, soon to be 5-time champion, some say. And rumour of his future, him going to Mercedes, is abound. It's getting techie. This time last week, everybody said it was nonsense, rubbish. Max Verstappen will never leave, just as they did Sir Lewis, Carl Davidson, Hamilton around this time last year. Never ever would Lewis Hamilton be a Ferrari driver. But F1 is weird like that. Sometimes there's too much circus and not enough circuit, because anything can and usually does happen in the weird and wacky world that is the one that F's. Now, Sky Sports UK are coming out and talking about it, because the rumour is parabolic. It's too much now. It's of material consequence, such that even the internationally syndicated broadcaster has to come out and address the rumour that Maximilian Verstappen will be at Mercedes in 2026. But again, it's techie. It is techie. We have this conversation under the umbrella heading of a couple of different things. In the first instance, 100 million is what the rumours say Max Team Verstappen would need to buy out his contract unless there is a performance clause, meaning therefore they could null and void his contract, which should expire in 2028 with immediate effect since as at July the 31st. That's per Julian Sedasoli, one of the God tier est ones. If there is a performance clause or two, it will speak like this to the various performance permutations. In the first instance, the Drivers' Championship, if Max Verstappen is lower than third in the championship, then he can null and void. Some say second, potentially. I think second is more likely than third. Bearing in mind Jos Verstappen, performance clause, etc., the way in which his career trajectory went. In the second instance, if we're still talking performance clauses, constructors, if Red Bull aren't third in the constructors, which they aren't and will not be as at July the 31st, then again, Maximilian Verstappen, if word on the F1 curb is something in which you can be invested, want to be invested, then Max Verstappen can null and void his contract. Barring those two eventualities, Max Team Verstappen and or a team, mention their names, Mercedes, Petronas, AMG, will need to buy him his way out of that contract to the tune of $100 million. By the way, all of these reports aren't pointing the same way anymore. And again, I think this is timing that we're talking to now. Eric Van Haren, infinitely closer to Camp Verstappen than I, came out and said today that he understands that there is interest from Mercedes in signing Maximilian Verstappen. No kidding, Sherlock. Did you hear Toto, the boy who cried wolf, saying as much over the course of the Austrian Grand Prix at the Red Bull Ring, for Pete's sake? He continues, however, that there has been no offer made, so therefore Max Verstappen, by extension, couldn't have accepted one. There's no offer to speak of yet, says Eric Van Haren. And again, all F1 journos are created equally, but some are created more equal than others. Eric Van Haren, if past his prologue, is one of the good est ones. Does that mean, though, necessarily that there's not an offer yet that hasn't been accepted? Per Sky Sports Italy, who say that there has been an offer made and Max Verstappen has accepted an offer in principle. All that Toto needs to go and do is have the offer rubber stamped, which will be of material financial consequence. Have that rubber stamped by the board, and that just happens. That's what normally happens. If you've got 100 million expense, you will need to get Ola Kalunius, you will need to get Sir Jim Ratcliffe, who apparently is struggling for financial resource, the other two 33% owners of Mercedes F1, to do one of these. Okay, that's the way that these corporations work. That's what Eric Van Haren said. That's what Sky Sports Italy say. Now, Julian Sedasoli has done a podcast, and in there she's spoken about it. A couple different eventualities if we're playing conjecture and speculation games. In that podcast, she said this could all be a negotiation. Could all potentially be a negotiation, because we know one thing for sure. George Russell has turned down a 1+1 contract in much the same way that his old teammate Sir Lewis Hamilton did. And what happened then? chat, Sir Lewis Hamilton went elsewhere. Pastures anew. Scuderia Ferrari, John, you're an absolute legend. Like and all that shizzle. So imagine George Russell's sufficiently confident in himself to understand his negotiating power and turn down a 1+1. He'll be saying, I'm a young, hungry lion. You don't give young, hungry lions 1+1 deal, a deal with an option, a 1-year deal with an option to extend at some point in the future, as if I'm a 40-year-old veteran. No, behave yourself. Go away with that. That's a slap in the face, is what George Russell is saying. Either you want me and you're going to invest in me for the future. Either I'm the guy to take Mercedes back to the top mountaintop, or I am not. In which case, go and get yourself a Maximilian Verstappen. Julian says potentially this is negotiating bargaining power from Mercedes and Toto with a view to have King George Russell of Kings Lynn, Norfolk reduce his value as far as the contract that he anticipates. So too on the balls that are red side of the tracks. Potentially it's Horner et al. Being negotiated with by Team Verstappen, saying, listen, we've got this brand new sexy contract over here from Mercedes. We could go and take that, or you could give us a better deal with more O's on it. So too, you come to find that, and again, we're dotting around here because there are a multitude of causation threads at which we need to pull, as always. Here's what you know about Red Bull. There was an article come out today that talked about Christian Horner, that the way that he was greeted by Charlie Mavija was less than warm at the Austrian Grand Prix. That's significant, chat, because you've heard the stories already. We've been talking about them, that Team Verstappen are going full Armageddon settings on Christian Horner, saying that if we're going to stay at Red Bull, if Maximilian Verstappen is going to try for a 5th or 6th championship at the Bulls that are red, that Christian Horner will either need to defend or vacate. Fix your fudging car, Christian Horner. Do you know what I mean? That's what Christian Horner might have to do. And if he cannot do it, then he'll need to step down as team principal of Red Bull or cede some of his power. Lest we forget, the new modus operandi and mantra as far as organisational structure is that of the papaya coloured team. Came in for a lot of criticism, the way that Zach Brown was the CEO, headed up all of the commercial activities of the papaya coloured team. And then you had Rob Marshall, who was your technical director. He oversees all of that last wing bender stuff. And then you've got Andrea Stella, and he's the racing mind. He's the team principal. So you've got delegated authority, a very segmented structure, so that these guys can invest time in the things that matter most to them, in the schemes and skills where they excel. So what about that, Christian? Well, Christian is the head of marketing, the head of racing, the CEO of Oracle Red Bull Racing. He heads up everything. There is nobody who he reports into shy of Charlie Mavija, the 51% owner of Red Bull GmbH. And that, says Team Verstappen, is a problem. One of two things will need to happen, therefore, if indeed Max Verstappen is going to stay at the Bulls that are red. The first, Christian Horner steps down as team principal. Not been working. It's not going to work. It is friction and fissure. The Verstappens hate Christian Horner. Charlie Mavija now, once upon a time, held Christian Horner as an adoptive son per se. That's gone. And evidenced by the way that he greeted Christian Horner at the Austrian Grand Prix. Mark Mateschitz was there in attendance, expecting to see a Max Verstappen masterclass. And Max Verstappen was confined to the carbon fibre zone. What do you think they're going to do then? And then if we're talking about performance clauses, which we have done already, 2027, potentially. What do you mean, Cameron? Well, how about 2027 is what they're negotiating for? And that syncs perfectly in line with the fact that Mercedes offered George a 1-year contract. Keep George for an additional year in 2026. And then you get the option to sign one Maximilian Verstappen. I think that lines up perfectly. 1+1 for George. Max Verstappen rocks up in 2027. And Martin Brundle's chimed in as well, because everything's getting techie. Everybody's talking about it now because it's a thing and it's consequential. Imagine Max Verstappen goes to Mercedes or leaves Red Bull or even stays. All three of those are chaos, techier than techie things. Here's what Brundle had to say. He said that Max Verstappen is keeping King George Russell of Kings Lynn, Norfolk, sweaty palmed. That George will be ringing around to try and secure his future in F1. Now, he won't be short of suitors. Aston Martin will be there. Red Bull will be there in the eventuality that Max Verstappen does leave. Of course, George has a future in Formula One, but he'll want to stay at Mercedes, especially given the rule and reg set that we're about to embark on in 2026, where the emphasis as far as durable competitive performance will be overweight the power unit. Martin Brundle continued. He said, nobody's denying now in the paddock insiders, those in the know, no one is denying that Mercedes have been having conversations with Max Verstappen. And this wouldn't be the first time, chat, because F1 history doesn't repeat always, but sometimes it does rhyme. May last year, Toto the boy who cried wolf, openly having conversations with Max Verstappen. So too summer break. That it happened. Toto's on record as saying that. So there is mens rea. Nobody's debating the desire, but whether Toto now can get it over the line, that's where it gets techie. Now, I'd argue that there's a massive disrespect for George Russell as far as his performance here today. He's been one of the best of the 20 on the grid, I would put forth. So then why isn't he got a contract? If not for Toto hanging around and wanting to see what Max Verstappen is going to do first, because he's the pole sitter as far as that seat at Mercedes. It's techie. Honestly, John, it's mom's spaghetti. It is nerve-wracking time and sweaty bum time. I hope George goes to a team that appreciates him. I don't hate that, J. Kim, either. You're not the first one to think that. Zero Turtle says, how are you doing, Turtle? Red Bull Racing would be lost without him. And this is the problem. Julian Sarasoli spoke about that. Nobody can drive that car not named Maximilian Verstappen. So the whole complex or complexion even of Red Bull as a racing team changes should Maximilian Verstappen leave. What, you're going to leave Yuki Tsunoda in there? Bless him. But Tsunoda, he's not got it right. Can't even drive that car. 3 races consecutive, back to back to back, outside of the points. What are we doing here? Can't drive that car. It's too difficult, too oversteery and understeery, as near as makes no difference at the same bloody time. So what do? No Christian Horner, no Adrian Newey, no Rob Marshall, no Jonathan Wheatley, and then no Max Verstappen. Behave yourself. You're going to have to rename the team. No, Red Bull would have to withdraw. Bring shame on the family net, unless we forget they're a marketing company, no, an energy drinks company. Do you think they want to turn up to the Red Bull ring in Austria, their home race, no less, and fail so badly with Mark Mateschitz, son of Dietrich, in attendance? Absolutely not, Joanna. Well, 269. You're a legend, Joanna. What about Kimi? Well, all right. So here's what I think the problem is. I think if I put my Toto Wolff cap on for a second, I would speculate that the pole sitter of a pairing for Toto the boy who cried wolf will be Max and Kimi. You saw the way Max handled Kimi Räikkönen, Kimi Antonelli this weekend, eh? Normally, fire-breathing dragon Maximilian Verstappen would be cursing. Indeed, he did curse in the immediate aftermath of the incident, the cheeky love kiss between him and the Italian Kimi Antonelli. What a fudging idiot, and he didn't say fudging. Expletive settings. We are not rappers settings, but as soon as he jumped out the car, realising it was Kimi, his whole demeanour changed, which I thought was uncharacteristic from Maximilian Verstappen. What does he know that we don't? Could it be speculation and conjecture games? The fact that he knows there is a high potential, a high possibility that he's going to be in the car alongside Kimi Antonelli next year. Mentorship role, potentially. Could it be that Max Verstappen has rounded third base on his 2025 championship camera? Potentially. Could it be that Max is now a mature father, a dad per se? Potentially. Could it be all of the aforementioned, a portion of all of the aforementioned, mixed into that causation pipe? Potentially. How about Checo popping up, mate? Don't even do it, Michael. No chance, chap. Safak, I'm curious as to how Arvid is going to perform in Yuki's car in FP1. Safat, don't even do it, mate. That's far too techie for consideration at this stage. So here's what's going to happen as far as the Max Verstappen news as we round third base. There's lots going on in the background. Other conversations happening? Absolutely. Has Maximilian Verstappen signed already? Well, it depends on whom you speak with. Maybe. I think Max Verstappen, I think the pertinent point here is that there is a desire, there is mens rea. And I think where there is a will and there is a Toto, a billionaire Toto, the boy who cried wolf, there is a way. I think Toto will be doing everything he can do to get it done. Because for the avoidance of doubt, if desire is a thing and Max Verstappen is available, Toto will drop kick in the chest a King George Russell of King's Lynn, Norfolk, with impunity, without compunction, of course, because he's so keen to write for the ills and the foibles, the low, poor level, low decision making of 2015, when sadly for him, he didn't have room at the boys and girls from Brackley and Brixworth in to incorporate the next generational driver that is Maximilian Verstappen. It's going to get techie, chat. I don't think we'll hear anything. Julian Sarasoli says we won't hear anything between now and July the 31st when the performance clauses come into effect. You won't hear anything between now and the British Grand Prix at Silverstone. They want to focus on the racing, but after that, early August, first couple of weeks of, it's going to get techier than techie things as far as the weird and wacky world that is the one that F's. It is driver silly season, and we might be looking at the biggest driver move in F1 history. Maximilian Verstappen, of course, soon to be 5-time champion, to Mercedes. What are we doing here?